design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally, and we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Hello, how's everyone? Welcome to Startup on the Blocks. Our guest is running a little bit behind today, but he'll be here shortly. Pat, I just sent you a link, so if you're available to hop on stage and talk about the lean stack training you've been going through, feel free to hop on that link. I sent it to your work email. Alrighty, we're gonna get started, and I'm gonna share my screen here. Let's see. Turn screen. Let's get something up here. Yes. First off, we want to thank our sponsors for supporting us with our Startup on the Blocks thing. I got a couple of announcements that I'm excited to chat about with our sponsors, especially Florida Power and Light. Next month sometime, we're going to kick off a program for Black founders in Florida. So we're going to be partnering with some organizations throughout the state that are working with Black founders, and we're going to run a couple of 30-day business model design cohorts, and also a 90-day launch program for Black founders in Florida. So keep your eyes and ears open for those announcements, and we want to thank Florida Power and Light for supporting us in that endeavor. And I want to thank the rest of our sponsors, the Blacks in Technology Foundation. We're wrapping up our second cohort, 30-day business model design cohort, and the founders are learning a lot. And so for those of you that are out there that are on your founder's journey, there's a lot of things you can take advantage of, but you have to be willing and patient to kind of learn what it takes to go forward. So we want to definitely thank the First Bank. They've been supporting us. Talked about Pat Rooney earlier with the collab, and he's in the Lean Stack coach training. So that's we're going to have another certified coach to help us out. And the startup science, they're actually making a lot of progress with their platform. So those of you who have an account on that platform, just take advantage of it, and as it keeps getting better and better, we're going to have to figure out how to host some cohort sessions on that as well to kind of support the startup community. Alrighty. And in a few minutes, Dwayne Kennedy will be on, and he can tell you a little bit more about himself. But I'm excited to have him on tonight, and because he's a perfect example of a person that took what they learned in their career and took what they learned in some of their personal experience and turned it into a successful startup. So we'll look forward to hearing his story in a few minutes when he gets here. And I connected with him through our Blacks in Technology partnership, where we're training founders there. So we're looking forward to chatting with him. Yeah. Greetings, Eleanor and Carlos and Pat, and all you folks out there, and Vercel is out there too as well. All righty. So thank you all for joining in and being a part of Startup on the Blocks. Yeah. So as we work with founders, one of the biggest challenges we have working with founders and is to helping the founders develop that mindset that founders mindset and learning those mindsets for a startup founder. But it's important that you take the time to actually learn what those mindsets are, and then learn all of these skills and best practices. And by doing that, you can actually take advantage of some of the opportunities in the ecosystem. And so I'll just show you all a couple. I highlighted some of them in the email that I sent out today. So let me see if I find my screen that's got that on it. So let's see here. Okay, here we go. So in our newsletter we just sent out yesterday, we have a Founders Opportunity Database, and let's make sure this is the right one. Yes. And so like this opportunity here that's still open, the Vision Accelerator, but the deadline is coming up quick. I believe it's Monday, and so that's like a $200K investment in your startup. And so I also mentioned this Florida Venture Farm here. This is an example of another $200,000 investment, and so they're looking for tech type companies. But you just have to realize how to talk about your company and the technology that you're using. So this was one that you could kind of easily not pay attention to, but it's a 10-week digital accelerator program, and it's by Google, and so it's equity free, and you get free mentoring, training, and you get product credits, and so that's a really neat opportunity. So when you kind of go back and look at the entire database, and you look at stuff that's closing soon, there's several things so this one's closing today, and that we just posted this. Did we post it today? So that's coming up tomorrow, and let's see. So yeah, so there are a lot of opportunities, and this was a new one we came across today, the Black Ambition. So if you're associated with HBCU or alumni or recent alumni, or one of your partners are there, you can actually take advantage of this opportunity. The deadline on that one is extended to Sunday. So that's another good example of an opportunity there. So there's just tons of opportunities coming up. So just make sure you take advantage of the opportunities that are in the newsletter. So I'm open to any questions too while we're waiting on our guests to come in as well. Feel free to type any questions you have in the chat there. Okay, so bottom line is that mindset can actually take you a long way. So one of the mindsets like that 10X one. So I was talking with the founder today, and he had a goal for like doing $1 million in 3 years. And I asked him why didn't he use 5 or 10 million, and he says, um, he was he didn't have that ambition to do that much, but what I was telling him, he's designing his business model, but if you're designing it and it's going to take just as much work for 1 million as for 10 million, why would you design it for 1 million when you can design it for 10 million and it's going to take the same amount of work? And so that's getting that mindset together there. So here's our playbook. So I harped on that enough. I had a founder that has an F6S profile, but if your profile is not populated well, then what happens is that when you apply for a benefit, you may get turned down. But if you build up your profile and show a track record of working on your startup, then you have a better chance of taking advantage of the opportunities there. So that's real important. Um, so it's a journey, and you have to be have that mindset that it is a journey. And so um, we're so what we're doing with Florida Power and Light, we're going to do um, between now and the end of the year, we're going to do 2 business model design things where you can learn to design a scalable business model, and then we're going to that's 2 days, and then we're going to do a 90-day problem solution fit where you're actually going to be validating your business model and onboarding customers. So that's another example. So Eleanor says, can she still access this? So Eleanor, are you talking about the Florida Power and the thing that Florida Power and Light is sponsoring for the state of Florida? Or are you talking about if you have an account in the Lean Stack, that account stays there and you always can access it? Does that answer your question? So yeah, so that's the neat thing about the platform is that once you get an account on there, you can keep going back and updating it. So that's it. So let's go to the next thing. We're talking about this is another way to look at your founder's journey, and this reminds me of another conversation I had today with the founder. So the founder, so we're trying to. I was reviewing his pitch and everything, and so he's trying to, so he decided on some pricing, and then so the question is how do you, if you're pitching to investors or an audience, and you're going to charge a certain amount per month for your pricing. So, um, so the question is, how do you, who's gonna your customers? How do you know they have that money and they're willing to pay that? And so one of the things we talk about in your lean canvas and your business models design thing is you want to get some traction. So this curve here is a traction curve. And so when you talk about your customers in the first part of your lean canvas, it says who are your customers, and then it says who are your early adopters, and then it asks what is your criteria for picking those early adopters. So you want to pick early adopters that are eager to buy your product or service before you build it, and so. So what the example there is that what's important is that you get some traction. And so the easiest way to get traction is from early adopters. But if you don't have a criteria to pick those early adopters, then you have a challenge. And so this was a kind of an interesting situation. So in the healthcare space, one of our coaches said he used his health savings account to buy his Apple Watch, and so the first thing I didn't know you could use a health savings account to buy an Apple Watch, and then so let's say you have this startup is in the healthcare space, and so it's trying to help people. We had Ray on last week, and he was talking about his startup, but so he's trying to help in the healthcare space. So what if um, he uses target people with health savings accounts because they've already spent the money and they have the money. So and so 1 out of every 5 people have diabetes, and why not have your early adopters be the ones that actually got the money, and why not narrow it down to the ones that have the health savings account? So now you've got a path to traction to moving forward, and we're going to be talking about some of the same stuff with Dwayne here in a second. I see he's made in out. I'll pull your hello, Dwayne. How are you? Can you hear me? Okay.
Great, great. Thank you,
All right.
Lloyd.
You're
Yes,
glad you
sir.
made it. So
Can
you
you hear
can.
me too?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yes, and so yeah, I'm just killing a little time here trying to throw out some little wisdom thing, and maybe you can actually help us with this idea of traction. So like when you're so um, how did you target or who did you target to kind of get some traction with your startup? Did you hear me? Okay.
I'm sorry, you said how did I target?
Yeah. Well,
It
how
cut out for a
so when
second, but I can hear you now.
yeah. So like when you so like first just go ahead and introduce yourself for a second first, and then we'll get you to help us out with this question.
Yes, sir. And I'm Dwayne Kennedy. Um, I'm a founder, and I I've, I'm a founder, but I have over 25 years of experience in law enforcement and mental health. And actually, as a result of that knowledge and learning, I was able to go ahead and develop a app to help Baltimore City schools re-engage their students, um, re-engage them by actually allowing a computerized process that would manage, pull together, and actually through observation and notification, uh, allow principals in schools to find out exactly what that students' needs were and provide them with a plan of action to obtain those needs and also hold people accountable. And I say people, the support team. If the counselor is supposed to do this, then the counselor needs to be doing this. And if not, you'd be able to tell by the AI outputs that we were able to go ahead and include in the reports. And make a long story short, that that right there helped Baltimore City schools because they were losing students even after re-engaging students because the was broken. Pieces of the puzzles from point A was not getting to point B, and paperwork was being lost, information and students were being lost, and so we were able to help Baltimore go ahead and re-engage their students and also keep them managed, hold people accountable. When I say people, hold the teachers and the social workers in Baltimore accountable to do their jobs, make sure the students achieve their
Okay.
goals.
Okay. So like what I was talking to the audience about a little bit here was like when you so when you were thinking, so let's just back up. So what did when in starting your startup, did you use the lean startup methodology, or you just got an idea and you ran with it? What was your approach with your startup?
You know, my approach, and it was very interesting because actually after I started going through the lean stack, I started learning that and understanding that it appears I went ahead and started doing it the right way, and I didn't realize I was doing it the right way. And what I mean by that is there was a problem, and I wanted to go ahead and solve a problem, and it was a big problem, and it still is a big problem, but I wanted to solve a problem, and from there I went ahead and just just went ahead and started putting find out the problem. I had the problem, and then I started putting the pieces together to solve the problem. And I say the pieces, understanding there was a needs, there was a
Mm-hmm.
risk factors, and there's needs, and by getting the right criteria, the right research criteria, and it's evidence based, um, and with also interacting with social emotional learning um, plan of actions, we were able to go ahead and put it all together. And I say put it all together, come up with an algorithm to go ahead and weigh the criteria based on risk from the students' um, behavior, observation. Um, and from there, we were able to go ahead and come up with a formula, a process to go ahead and comprehensively tell the story of the student from the beginning, where the student is, where the student's going, and if something is not done, the output of that student, and if something is done, which is this follow-up support component plan of action, we'll show that part too. So through AI, and so I say that just because we were able to go ahead and show Baltimore that, and Baltimore likes the information. They like to know where the student is, and then also how to go ahead and go about not just throwing a tutor at that student, but knowing exactly what targeted area or areas, whether it's absence, whether it's trauma, whether several other criterias, and they like to have that information so they can follow up and continue to move forward with that student.
So what was the Baltimore school system doing to service their students before you came along?
Right? And before we came along, Baltimore City, they were re-engaging students, but the process was done by paper and pen, basically. Baltimore City was writing down what the student's name and maybe a note, one sentence or two sentences at the most, of what problems or what they had going on, and give the piece of paper to the student. The student would go ahead. At least that was the plan. That was the process. Many times the student would not either make it to the school with that piece of paper or lose the piece of paper. And many times also they would give the piece of paper to the principal or to um, the supervisory official there at the school that would obtain that paperwork, and the paperwork would get lost on the desk, or it would just be lost. And that problem was severe enough to cause Baltimore to not have good management of students being re-engaged, and there would be no follow-up because again they didn't know at times, they didn't know what was going on basically with that student.
Yeah. So
They didn't know whether the student was in school or not.
Yeah. So it's just, do they use your software with just a particular students, or do they use your software with all the students?
Being used with all the students, um, and that's all the students that are being re-engaged. Uh, the good thing is the software can also be used with students at school that need to be re-engaged. And what I mean by that is the student currently going to school but has some trauma issues, or has some absence issues, or have some reading issues. Again, the good thing about the tool is the teacher can find the student, or see the student, not just find, but see the student, observe them having issues, fill out, and actually I say fill out, but it's more, I'm sorry, I'm up here reading a note.
That's a question, but you can finish what your thought, and then we can take the question.
Oh, okay. So, again, what the principal, or what the teacher can do is definitely go ahead and use this on any student. And we call it an aunt, observation and notification tool. And the interesting
Hmm.
thing about this tool is it can work definitely with any student being re-engaged. And in all actuality, it was also made. Well, I'll keep it for re-engagement purposes, but at the same point in time, it works with school shootings too. And I can go into that a little bit further if need to, because it's a pre-active tool. As a former police officer, I understand police officers are reactive to school shootings or anything else. And what, in my opinion, what we need is a something that's going to go ahead and tell the story before the story. And many times we hear on CNN or any other news channel, oh, this person knew this person knew this person knew this. Again, this is what our tool does through observation and notification. Pieces of the puzzle are put into our tool, ran through the algorithm, and again, the AI reports start popping up, and we're able to go ahead and let you know what's happening, where it's happening, basically what where, and also if nothing's changed. Again, from the prescriptive or predictive, we'll be able to predict at a high level what's about to happen, and we can draw up a prescriptive part also through the plan of action to let you know this is what you need to do to solve this from not happening. And again, through notification, we can let the proper authorities, whether it needs to be the police, whether it needs to be the mental health person, whether it needs to be the social worker, whether it needs to be the principal, whether it needs to be the superintendent's office. And so we're excited about moving forward with this product.
Okay. So so Eleanor is asking, what specifically does your product measure, and how many youth participated? But what my question was, let's say you got a a, a classroom of 30 students. The way I was asking the question, would this tool be used to monitor all the students or certain students in the classroom? That's what my question was. So, and
Right.
so your answer was all the students?
Well, yeah. My answer actually would be from the user, the teacher standpoint, whatever target population and whatever she's trying to achieve. So the question, so I would say the question would be, you know, it could be for grades, it could be for people who have trauma issues. So it really all depends on specifically what you want to target. If you want to target schools, make sure people are safe,
Okay.
secure, and stable.
Yeah. So
Then
so
yes.
but so like so I'm trying to think of how to. So basically, um, there wouldn't be a profile for every student that's in the school in your software.
There wouldn't, but there could be.
Okay.
So so
Yeah.
so,
So
so
that's that. Yeah. That's kind of what that's kind of. I was just trying to see the
okay.
student, the teacher or social worker becomes aware that a student has some issue, and then then they will start tracking that student. I guess is what my, in essence, what my
Right,
question.
right. And I'll give you a good example, such as if a student is in one class and maybe has some observational, and that could be anything from maybe tantrum, maybe some fighting, maybe some threats, but then they go to another class and that's not heard or not known from another teacher, but then goes on to another teacher in another class and that's heard. So right now what's happening is people are picking up pieces of the puzzle, but the puzzle's not being placed together. And so
Yeah,
that's basically what our program does, is puts it all together before, not
gotcha.
reaction, before. Yeah.
Gotcha. So and so I guess Ellen has another question, but I guess she's just asking what specifically do you measure, and but so I guess how would you answer that?
I would answer that based on the target outcome, and that comes from the user, which would be the teacher or the school. So based on what they want to accomplish, because school shooting and grades, they have some overlapping
Hmm.
criteria, but again, it needs to be research-based criteria, and they're not the same. School shooting and when we start looking at re-engagement as for just re-engagement grades. So what we do is have a research team of PhDs, and they help us. And actually, that's where we get the research information. So it's approved research, and we include the social emotional learning part of it in the plan of action,
Hmm.
and the criteria is weighted based on risk, and it's approved
Yeah,
again through.
yeah. Yeah, so like I see like if you're collecting data and then if the AI spots some patterns, then it can actually do some alerting is what the deal, and that could be the key is patterns. So, and so so that's kind of sounds like what it is. So Carlos says, can your product help students who are experiencing bullying?
Yes, it can. It definitely can. It's the same format, the same formula, except again, criteria may be different.
Hmm.
Research, and it's approved research, but yes, it can be. So yeah.
So kind of like walk us through that example, like from a use case, if you could.
Okay. And the interesting thing from a use case, what we do is we provide personalized, customized um, aunts. It doesn't take us long to develop complete. We have the formula, we have, everything is together. We just have to go ahead and make sure the research is approved. And then we'll go
Gotcha.
ahead and work with the customer, not only with the research, because before we go ahead and make it live, we go ahead and work with the customer to make sure they're also on board with research, with the criteria. And then also when we come up with the support plan, we definitely make sure that these supports follow the user's supports, and whether it's therapists, whether it's principals, whether it's police, whether it could be the courts, it could be law enforcement. So we have a support. I'm sorry, I'm here reading a little
Yeah,
bit
Ellen
more.
has another question. She's saying, do you see do you use it with students who identify McKinney Bento uh, National Homeless Program for Families? I'm not. I don't know what Bento is. Does that ring a bell with
Yeah,
you?
it doesn't, but I do know again, we I say cater, but what's going on now is we're customized, and that's what we do. We work with the customer to go ahead and develop these aunts specifically for the user, and we're able to modify as needed. And I say modify again. It just depends on what you're targeted or what the targeted what they're trying to achieve, basically. So what their targeted output they want. Again, like you said, mentioned a little bit earlier about the data. The good thing about the data is you're exactly right. We collect so much data, we're able to go ahead and do the predictions, do the prescriptions, but also see the patterns. And I used this method when I worked in Alexandria with the mental health uh, uh, adults and adults. And I was able to see patterns. And the interesting thing about the patterns is sometimes when people give certain assessments or when they go through certain things, they can try to fool the so-called system or the assessment or the pattern. But when you start using behavior in the normal flow, and I was able to see that with uh, mental health people that had mental health issues, and using that, I was able to go ahead and work with the police, the mental health police, sheriff's department, just all of because it's a comprehensive group that works together. Try to go ahead and at least when I was working with Alexandria to try to keep the mental health people that didn't need to be in jail out of jail, but also make sure the safety, security, and stability of the public and themselves were. So this is what I use that tool for, and I was able to go ahead and provide definitely again the city with these results. Yep.
So it looks like Eleanor's got several questions here. Does the two has to be programmed for specific behavior types?
No, it does not. Again, psycho-behavioral, that's what we're looking at. Psycho-behavioral. Let me see if there's another question. So I just want to make sure I understand this question. This is a long one. Yep. School records are not accessible. They cannot be turned down. Okay. Is this a question?
So, Eleanor, you're going to have to rephrase that or simplify the question a little bit. It's, you know, so youth, is it youth who are not stable? This gives them to write, no matter what the school they attend, due to, maybe she's trying to say what that other thing was. So there's, so we don't, Eleanor, we don't know what this MCC McKinney-Vento thing is. So, so evidently that's, yeah. So, yeah, and I think she's trying to explain what it is. So I'm not familiar with that term. So yeah, you're speaking a different language here, Eleanor. Yeah. So but I think if we so let's just back up a little bit on your journey here, Dwayne. So so what I
So
understand is that you took what you learned in law enforcement and mental health jobs and personal experiences, and you came up with the idea for the startup. And so and um, so it sounds like it took a lot to bring this idea to reality. You had to partner with certain organizations to and you had to use technology and stuff. But how did you know who to go to for your first customer to get some traction? So what made you go after a school system, like a public school system, as opposed to a college, as opposed to people in a prison, a juvenile detention center? What what made you choose the school system to target to get as a customer?
Right. And what what started the interesting thing is COVID
Okay.
changed trajectory. Um,
Okay.
and I just say that just because back in we started this back in 2018, and again, just to give a brief history, in 2015,
Okay.
I had an accident while working. As a result, I got hit in the car. Well, I was car accident, but I have traumatic brain injury. As a result, I wasn't able to continue working. I had been working about 20, actually 25 years. I wasn't able to
Oh,
continue working like I was able to. So I still had this knowledge, but I could only continue working or concentrate basically for about 15 minutes. After that,
yeah.
things get a little different for me.
Okay.
But I was able to share this information with my daughter and also the information that, and I say this information, I was able to share what I'm letting you all know right now, and also we were able to build this app because I was able to tell my brothers and also my daughter and my sister, and they were able to go ahead and work and develop this. I was I am the founder. I was able to come up with this, but they worked to put this thing going. And the interesting thing, I just reached back to 2015 because after that, um, I went ahead. It took me a little bit to get things back on track to realize I could bring this information out so they could go ahead and put it on paper. Because
Okay.
prior, I had it and I was using this information, but at the same point in time, it wasn't an app quite yet.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, and so I say that just because. So and so why is Baltimore? We first started out with a church, one of the mega
Okay.
churches down in Richmond. Actually,
Okay. Okay.
COVID hit. When COVID hit, COVID, people stopped going to churches, and people stopped going. I guess it all depends on what church you're talking about, but people stopped going to church. This church,
Gotcha.
and they shut things down. I actually, because I actually have a pacemaker in my chest now. We believe it's due to the accident that happened at work, but I just say that just
Gotcha.
because as a result, I had to get my second pacemaker because the first pacemaker was running out. So right before COVID happened, right actually when it was happening, I had the operation done right when actually
Okay.
COVID was happening, and I was living in Richmond, but it was time for me to go ahead and move back up to Maryland, and that's why I'm getting to Baltimore because
Gotcha.
we went ahead and didn't move forward with the mega church, but we did move forward with Baltimore and with the re-engagement. If you remember during COVID, losing a lot of kids, schools were, couldn't kids and still looking for them. And I'd say things, it's like a flow. Things just happen. Business from being in business, sometimes things happen and you can't plan for it.
Yes.
And that's what happened. And so as a result, we went to Baltimore, and Baltimore said, yes, we could use this. We have to find a lot of students. That's a great, well, for us, that's a thing because I'm glad to put it out here, but at the same point in time, continue trying to expand. I've been working with people, whether it's youth or whether it's adults for the last, and it's in my heart, my purpose. I feel like continue moving on if I'm able to, and so far I've been able to. So
Yes. Yeah. So
that's a brief story.
yeah, yeah. So you COVID happened, and then you realized the schools were having trouble keeping the kids engaged, and so that's what kind of gave you the idea to start working with the school system. And um, so would you characterize them as being hungry for something, and you just happen to show up with something that they could actually use?
That's correct. That's correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah. So what would be your strategy to kind of get it out to other schools?
The good thing is we were able to capture a whole lot of data,
Hmm.
and we have a whole lot of AI descriptive, a diagnostic, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. And I just say that just because we have a lot of information to show that we can pinpoint exactly, okay, if someone's having this issue, okay, these are the so-called the support that we need to put inside the plan of action. And then once that support is put in, this is how we can monitor that support. So to make a long story short, now we have not just a, a written or a verbal story, we actually have physical proof, and we can show the charts of real persons, real student processes, and what's going on. So we're excited because again, we can go ahead and show instead of just talk. And
Yeah,
for a lot of schools, school systems, they want to see proof when we have it.
gotcha.
So we do
So
plan to. Okay.
yes, so you're saying so you're going to leverage you can leverage that data to try to onboard more school systems.
That's correct.
Yeah. So who are some other potential users for your software?
So other potential users, again, schools, but I can tell you, Lloyd and everyone else, that during the last several years, Black Lives matters a whole lot to me and many others. And I mentioned that just because what we understand in former law enforcement is that it's law enforcement is not when they come out, they're not so-called recorded or and I say recorded, but based and I'm not voice or picture recorded, but I guess what I'm trying to say is if you knew this cop had some issues, when you start having conversations with this cop, that might help save a life. It might help save you because usually pieces of the puzzle for police officers to the public aren't known. And I do understand that. And so our tool works to go ahead and gather, I'll give you a good scenario from a badge number. Somebody could have a badge number. And again, you'd have the city and this and that, but you could actually know whether, you're dealing with somebody, whether or not this person has prior incidences of physical harm or this and that with some other people based on our tool. And I just share that just because that might let you know, okay, look, maybe I need to do it this way instead of this way. Because again, we can also help with that plan of action. So it's several different areas, and I see Black Lives Matter because definitely I think they can use something. Again, a lot of times we're reactive, but our tool is preactive, and
Hmm.
we can do that in many different sectors. But definitely school environments right now, we're going to stick to that, and we're going to go ahead and try to also go to individuals, families, because we also want to help the ADLs, activity daily livings for seniors and families. And I say that just because I've used this tool with my father also when he started forgetting items. And so we wanted to know, and I say we, me, my brothers and sisters wanted to know what level of risk problem areas that he had, whether it was in memory, whether it was in cooking, because he was still living by himself, whether it was paying the bills. So and then you come up with a plan. So this thing helps in many different areas, and we're just getting started. We're very excited and definitely excited to be in Lean Stack with Lloyd. And again, we have the idea, but it's like we're putting the pieces of the puzzle together, working with Lloyd in Lean Stack, just because it's if the idea is great, but this, without having the operation, the correct management, the way to do it, um, we're not going to go too far. So we need that. So thank you.
Yeah. So like you're so tell us like when you so how so you we kind of met through the Blacks in Technology. So 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 how did you hear about the the founders program, and what made you decide to apply for it?
I heard through the Founders Program. I heard from Hugh, and
Okay.
I say that just because he actually, the interesting thing about Hugh, he actually helped us. We had this app when we originally put it together for the church. We had it through GoDaddy, but we had some
Hmm.
glitches. Hugh helped us go ahead and switch and make that move to AWS.
Okay.
And I say that just because that made a big difference. It made a big difference in not having any glitches, but also having the ability to go ahead and add what we needed to add, make the tool, and continue making the tool better and better, and to have the support we needed to run right now. As a result, right now we have the ability to go ahead and continue to scale up. Um,
Okay.
whether it's 80,000 students, being logged inside our program, whether it's more, school systems. So he again helped out a whole
Okay.
lot,
Yeah.
and
So
I can't say
yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he was in the first cohort, and yeah, so we had him on Shut Up on the Blocks a while back as well. So the so so that's how you found out about it. But so what were you looking for? So what? So it was basically Hugh recommending that you actually, sign up for that second cohort. Okay. Okay.
He yeah he did.
Okay. Okay. So like, so we're this is our final week in there. We're gonna have the demo day thing next Thursday. So like, yeah. So how did it impacted you so far just by participating in the 30-day business model design thing?
Great. Especially the one page canvas. But then, I mean, not just that, the traction in the pitch. All of it's
Hmm.
been great. I'm I'm a I can think of these things. I guess a visualizer.
Okay.
Um, and I try to explain at times.
Yes.
It's clear in my mind,
Yeah.
but it's not. I can make it simpler, and this has helped me see and move that towards that way of making it simpler and smaller, and also making contact and being able to have coaches, the coaches, being able to talk to them. That means a lot. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So like, I think your story, is documented pretty well on the website. So to me, all you have to do when you're pitching, you just have to take that story and turn it into like a 3-minute pitch. So like so your personal story, in that part. So like so how do you make money with your software? So how do you charge the school system or and to use your software?
Right. Right now, we charge 1,500 per user. So right now, it could be. Matter of fact, it's not could be. It's around 10 social workers and or teachers. We have several different names that can use our software, and they can go ahead and put as many students in there. But per user, the ones who use the tool, we charge 1,500 per user.
Is that per month or per year or what?
I apologize. It's per year. It is.
Okay. So you and I we're gonna have a little heart to heart conversation here, because it sounds like you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you can charge per user, but cap the number of students per user can actually monitor. So what I'm saying is you got to get your revenue model where it actually is per student. You got to come up with a revenue model that's per student. You see what I'm saying? And you're gonna yeah yeah and so when you look at that traction roadmap tool, you literally need to play with a lot of scenarios, because in order to come up with a revenue model where you can actually get the value. So you giving them value to the school system, but you're not recapturing enough value back for what you're giving now. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm
Yeah,
trying
I
to think of how
do.
to say
I
that.
do.
Yeah, and I don't know. So when you think about how does the school system get funded? They get funded per student, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. Yeah, and so you're helping them,
Right.
the students. So you want to you want to take that same scenario, because like let's say down here, if for at a high school, or they getting like $7,000 or $8,000 a year per student. So what percentage of that do you deserve in your software to get it? Because they got that allotment. You follow what I'm saying? Or if a student has issues, are
Right.
they getting more money or whatever? Yeah. So, and that's why you need to play with that traction
Yes, I do.
roadmap.
I am following this.
Yeah, to kind of see the different scenarios where you can actually um, probably come up with a better revenue model that still is good for the schools, but it's also good for you as well.
Right.
So
Right. I do understand
yeah,
what you're saying. And yep.
yeah, because
So
if you
yeah,
so
thank
like when
you.
you yeah, so when you look at see, that's why you want to use that traction roadmap. And so like for this, so you could potentially come up with something that per student, but allow as many teachers as possible who needs to use it. So, but see, so
Right.
like let's say if
Right.
you
I
got
agree with
you
you.
got
Yep.
yeah, let's say you got um, because right now I think the way you're doing it, you're limiting their ability to attract the students, because a teacher or somebody can't track for so many. A social worker can't track for so many students. Monitor, you see what I'm
Right.
saying? or input data, but for
Right.
so many students. So it's better for you to get more data by having more teachers being able to use it. And then if you charge it per student, you see what I'm saying? So you just got to make it attractive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Judy.
So
And
I
this is
was
helping me
talking.
out a lot. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I was talking. So a lot of the for example, yeah. So like this software platform we're using here, when I originally started using it, they were letting us have two users, come in here and do stuff. But now they let us have 10 users come in here and do stuff and modify stuff, etc. And so it's a better experience for me, but they're still getting a reasonable value compensation money wise. Yes,
right,
and so that's the
right.
where you have to look at it, and so revenue model is can make the difference whether you onboard somebody or not onboard a customer. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and so the example I've been giving our founders is so like we need project management, CRM to manage all the founders, and we need to be able to interact with the founders. And so we so like if we get one tool and they're going to charge us per user, that's not good for me. But if another one may charge, you know, differently. So that's what the revenue model is. So you gotta work on that revenue model. Yeah.
I will
Yeah,
be,
because you
like I said,
put a lot
appreciate
of work.
that. That's
Yeah,
good.
but like yeah, so they get funding per student. So what I would do if I
Right.
were you, this is the example I saw today. What we were talking about before you came on is so you in this field, it's mental health, but it's school system. So other vendors that do business with school system, how do they charge the school system? And so if you notice a pattern of how they're charging the school system, the light bulb comes on. Maybe I should charge them similarly, or maybe I can charge them a slightly different way and be more competitive. You see what I'm saying? And so,
Mm,
yeah.
yes.
So I was talking to Ray today, and he, he's in the healthcare industry, and
Right.
so one of his companies, that he's had dealt with in the past, or he noticed that's in the same field, they get payment for their service through the health savings account. I said, Ray, if they're doing it, why aren't you looking at doing that?
Mm,
You see what I'm saying? So
right.
and
Yeah, I
that goes back to this is what I tell
do.
people is when you let me see if I can find it here. Got some of these windows open. I'll share this real quick and then we can wrap up here. Um, because this is some of these things are they're not really difficult to communicate, but when um, when you're learning these different methodologies for building your startup. So like one of in this startup science program, it goes from where you're down here visioning to exit. So it's kind of training you everything you need to know to go through all these phases. And so one of the things they teach you down here in this early phase is to find a company to follow that's in the same space you in, but they already out there. What are they doing? So you keep an eye on what they're doing. So that's your guide way to get further down this pipeline.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And
Yes, sir.
but see, Ray actually saw this, but he didn't know how to apply it. But let's say if he had been took these first few classes down here in the visioning, that's one of the things you have to do. You have to pick the company that's going to buy you at the exit. So down here in the beginning, number one, you ask yourself the question, which company is most likely to buy? So like in your industry you're in, if I ask you which company is most likely to buy your company, that's a question you need to be able to answer. And then you also have to pick a company to follow, because you don't want to invent the wheel. If another company already laid the path, why are you going to build your own path?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and so so that's kind of what the you know uh, yeah. So that's kind of what the kind of what you can learn, and that's what I hope a lot of other people, when they're trying to figure out their pricing and all this stuff, don't reinvent the wheel, or don't just jump on just see what the way other companies are doing it, and the way you learn. So like if you listen to pitches for other companies that's in the same field you're in, you get ideas from them, so you don't have to make the same mistakes they're making. So,
Right.
Pat is saying, he respects your passion, and the progress is amazing. So, stick with the lean stack, and your bits will grow the stakeholder engagement. But I tell you, you're a good example of a person. If you get that revenue model down good, and your strategy for rolling out to your customers, you actually, because the school systems have the money, you just got to understand, what other people that are selling stuff to the school system, how do they charge them, and maybe you need to follow that pattern. Yeah, but yeah, so this is another training that you can actually go through to kind of help guide you, through your thing. So you got your product, and now you're trying to figure out how to go to the market. But you may need to go back here and look at some of these courses back here, in order to better understand, how to get there. Yeah, and so that's kind of what the deal is there. So um, yes, yeah, so you said thank you. Yeah, but yeah, so we'll go ahead and get kind of start wrapping things up here. You actually have any closing thoughts you want to share with the audience?
Lloyd, I think actually you summed it up. I feel good about the passion and the software, what we have. But like you said, I think I need to go, which I'm doing. But once I get that other part together, I'll be able to leverage, and this thing can go ahead, and not can, but it will go ahead and move forward um, in a positive way. And I feel good about that, just because, again, you see, again, you're able to go ahead and help me see that part that I need and work
Yeah,
on. And once I go ahead and get that part, man, I mean, I watch sports, and so once I get that part, I'm gonna be good in different areas. Maybe not an expert, but good enough to go
yeah.
ahead
What
and know
yeah.
what to do.
So like I'll say it again, the way, so like so the way I learned, let's say, no matter what so like let's say if I was in your shoes and I was in the healthcare industry, and I'm targeting schools, so I would be looking at a lot of other, companies that are offering similar services, and seeing what their approach is, and listening to their pitch, and then so like you find all these pitch things that are going on, and they all virtual now, so you can actually see them. There's no trouble, and every day you can be looking at pitches. You just got to track down the ones that are related to your industry, and then you're going to hear the people pitch, and they're going to tell how they make money. They're going to talk about their traction, how they got their traction. The judges are going to ask them questions, and to see what the deal is. And by those judge asking the question, you have to ask yourself the same question, and then you learn how to answer the questions. And
This is great. Yeah.
that's what the deal is. Yeah, and so we, yeah, it's but I still say it all falls back to the mindset. How do you learn that mindset so you can start tuning in to what you need to be tuning into?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. All righty, so we're gonna wrap it up. Let's see if we got any more comments here. So next week, on startup on the blocks, we're gonna have the demo day for our second cohort of of, with Flax and Technology, and so we'll have 10 pitches, and then we'll pick 3 people to give $1,000 prize money to each one of them, and we're literally taking the grading criteria right out of the lean stack training. So we're taking it right out of your training, and trying to learn how to pitch, clearly and concisely. So, but we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think I feel, you get that revenue model straight, and you got that data now. You can say, well, you can say, so there's interest in what you have, and so that's some amount of traction. But I think if you just get that thing right, and I'll go back and look at your traction roadmap and see if I can give you some pointers. But that's your tool that you can figure out your pricing strategy. Yeah. All righty, and we'll see everybody next week. And everybody have a safe holiday weekend, and enjoy your families and all. All right. Bye bye, everybody.